Hello, Mr. ChatGPT, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. How can I help you today?
Yeah, just wait. I'll be presenting. I'll need your help with few things. I'll share screen with you, and then I will uh, start my presentation. When I need help, I will ask you for help.
Sure, I'm ready whenever you are. Feel free to start your presentation and let me know when you need help.
Sure. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen with my friend ChatGPT, so he or she can see what we do. The other thing I need to do, I need to podcast this one or mirror this one with my laptop, which I think is happening. Yeah, it's there. And then the next thing will come to our presentation. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about Java objects and classes. We will cover the following. We will discuss about what is a class, how to define a class, and what should be included in a class, and then we'll create objects using a class, and then we'll pass that object to a method, or we store it in an array, and then with how we display data in that array. Mr. ChatGPT, anything do you want to add?
That sounds comprehensive. That sounds comprehensive. You might also want to include a quick example to illustrate how to define a class and create an object. Let me know if you need any help with examples or explanations.
We will do that. We have lots of examples in this presentation. Okay, let's come here. I think we spoke about classes and object before, but this is quick revision. A class is a blueprint for creating an object. What does mean a blueprint? You can look at it like a description of that object. What are the key attributes of that class, and also what are the methods or behaviors the class will do. Blueprints can be understood as a template for creating objects. So you create a class, and from that class you create the objects. The class is a generic, but the object is specific. What I mean, if I'm talking about a car, that means any car. But if I'm talking about my car that has specific registration number, brand, color, whatever, that's an object. Now, when you come to specific, that's object. So, and then we'll talk about how this object is important, object and classes, how they are important to object-oriented programming. They help reusability, they help security of the code, they help with many things. And these are very essential for our course, because our course programming 2 is object-oriented programming, and that's the main focus for that. Mr. ChatGPT, do you want to add anything to this?
Your explanation is great. Highlighting the importance of classes and objects in reusability and code security is key. Perhaps mentioning encapsulation and inheritance briefly could also be useful. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to emphasize or explain further.
Yeah, we will be talking about inheritance and other aspect, encapsulations and relationship and other things in this course, but not in this presentation today. Okay, so here is an example. This is a class we have here. We called the class car. Um, you can see we just have the keyword class and then the name of the class, which car. As a naming convention, the first letter of a class should be capitalized or capital letter. Inside the class, we have our data or attribute. These are the things that tell us more about the class. So a car, for example, will have a color, will have a model, will have a plate number, we have so many other things. But now for just the example, to make it simple, we selected only two attributes of that. Sometimes we refer to them as fields. So we have color and a model. Within the class, you can have methods, and this is just one example of a method that called display information. It basically will display the car model and the car color. Of course, you will have other methods setters and getters, which we will talk about them later, to set values for these attributes one by one, or get the values for that attribute. You need the setters and getters if the attributes are private. In this case, they are public or default, so you can change them from anywhere, but later we will encapsulate the data or make it secured or hide it from external, so we'll make it private. When you make it private, you need setter and getter, so you cannot change the data directly. You need to change them through those setters and getter. And also there's something called constructor, which we'll talk about it later, which is a special method that used to initiate or instantiate or create objects. And that method will have the same name as the class name. We spoke about it before, but we'll spoke about it later. So this is a basic example of a class. Mr. ChatGPT, do you want to add anything?
That's a great explanation. Just to add, constructors are indeed crucial for initializing objects with specific values. Also, encapsulation helps in maintaining the integrity of the data. Great job covering the fundamentals.
Thank you. Now, here is how we can use that class in a main class. So in this example, you'll have two classes or two files. One file is class car, the other one is class main, that will, or file main, that is the one that we will run, and it will be initiating or initiating object or creating object from the class car. So here is the main class, which we have seen it before, but I'm just bringing it here. So it's a main class, it's a public. Inside it, there is a main method, which public static void main, and then it receives an array of string as argument. Inside the class, this line is the one who really link the two classes together. So this line basically comes here to this class to be executed. So when we say car, we're talking about the data type now. We're creating an object of type car. And car is a class we created there. We call it my car. I can call it anything. In fact, this name doesn't make difference, but always good to relate the name to the same class. If you have a car, you call it maybe my car or car one or something like that, so you can, so people will know this is of type car. And then you have the equal and the keyword new. New means it will call the constructor of that class car. Now, if there is no class car constructor, then there will be a default one by default call cars with no parameters. So basically this line now will create an object and allocate a memory for it in the computer, and this object called my car. Anytime I want to change its color, I just say my car.color, and then I change the color. I want to change the model, my car.model, and that's it. If there is, for example, mileage of that car, it will be a similar thing. But in this case, we have only two attributes or fields in the class in the class car. As you know, we have only these two here. So we basically can change the two. And now if I want to display the information of that class, I can call the method that in the class called display information. So my car display information. So in this example, if I have two cars, I can have my car 2 as well, a line like this one, car, my car 2 equal new car. And then in case I want to change car 2, I see my car 2.color. But if I want to change the first car, I can say my car.color. And this way we can change the attributes or call the methods of a class from the main class or from another class in this case. ChatGPT, you have any more thing to add?
That's a great overview. One thing to emphasize is how these attributes and methods encapsulate the behavior and properties of the object. It's really helpful to show how creating multiple objects from the same class allows for better organization and modularity in code. Great job covering these concepts.
Thank you. Now, how we can pass an object to a method, and in the past we used to pass variables, like we pass integers, a string, a double, all these things. Now we need to pass an object. When you pass an object, you pass it with all its data plus its associated method with that one. So you have a full encapsulated information in one object that you can send. And that, for example, if you have an object called student, and has student as ID, name, program is or major studying, courses, register, GPA, whatever. If you pass the student object to a method, you can process or do some manipulation or analysis on the data provided inside that object. So how we do that? This is the way to do it. This is a line to show you how to do it. So assume here we have a method called change car color. This method is static void because we're going to have it in the main class. And this method now receives two parameters or takes two parameters. One is an object of type car, and the other one is a color, which is type string. So if you pass car, an object, and a color to this method will use it to set the color of that car. So this car with lowercase here, which is the object, will be now calling its method with change color. This should be a method in the class car called change color, and passing to it the color, regardless of what color here, red, blue, white, whatever, that will change. So this method will be ready now to receive an object, because we passed to it an object, and the way to pass an object, you put the class of that object and then the object you want to create. So in this case, we're passing car, and we will have an object to represent that. If you want sending a student, will be student and a small case student. You're sending a book, will be a book and small case book. You're sending a course, will be a course, small account, same thing. Yeah. So and this object now, this is the object, will be used to call the methods associated with that class. So that's what we will do. And now, anything here you want to add before we go to the main class and see how this will work, Mr. ChatGPT?
That was a thorough explanation. Just to add, passing objects by reference allows methods to directly modify the object's attributes, which is especially useful in object-oriented programming. This is a powerful concept for handling complex data structures and behaviors in your programs. You're doing great.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the main class now. The main class has the method that we created, which called change car color, that receive an object of type car and a color of type string, and using the method that in the class car called change color to change the color. Okay. Now, if I come to the code, all this code you know because you have done before, we'll jump to this line here. This line is calling that method. So it's calling change car color, which is this method, and it passed to it my car, which we created here already. Remember, we created this object here, and we passing it here, and we deciding on a color, which color blue, that will be passed. So this line basically calling that method and passing to it the object which we already created. So you need to have an object already created before you pass it, of course. So we created the object already here using the default constructor, and we're passing it in this method with the color. When it comes here, this will go up here in this one and become car is whatever we passed from here, and then you can use it to set change the color of that object. Mr. ChatGPT, anything you clarify or simplify in this area?
That explanation is spot on. One thing to clarify, after calling change car color my car blue, the my car object's color is updated to blue. It's a powerful demonstration of how methods can manipulate object properties directly. Great job.
Thank you. Now let's look at the whole code here. This is both the class car and the main class. Now if you start from the top, you know, when you run your code, it will jump to the main class. In the main class, we're creating the object. We're changing its color. We're using just the direct attribute change because it's public. We're changing the model, and then we're displaying the color of that car. Here we are calling that method that we would like to call. So just this animation here. So this is how we're creating the object. Here we started to change the attribute, and here we displaying the result, and that's we'll use the my car as object, and this one is the one that will call this method. So this will call this method and to change the color and pass to it the object my car and the blue color. Now when this happen, it goes here, the object car will come here, and then we can use it to change the color. Now when you change the color, change color method is member of the class car. So it will go here into the class car. This is the method, and this method now will be used to change the color. Basically it will receive the blue color here, it will use color and set this one to blue. This is how the flow or the process works here. Mr. ChatGPT, anything you want to add here?
That's a clear breakdown. Just to add, after the change car color method is called, the updated color is reflected in the my car object, demonstrating how methods can interact with objects. Overall, you've covered the entire process well.
Thank you. Now let's get into the arrays. We cannot continue using my car 1, my car 2, my car 3. Assume you have 1 million car. You cannot have 1 million variables. The best way is to use an array. The array can store a large number of data from the same type, or you can say here large number of objects from the same class. And this is very important technique that allow us later to process those objects and go through them and do lots of manipulation of this object. So here is how you can create an array that store cars. Sorry. Here we are creating an array, we call it cars, but this array of type cars. So all of them from the class car. They are copies from the class car. You can look at them this way. And this square bracket here and square bracket here means this is an array. So this is an array of type car, and the name of the array is cars. And then we use new, and we will create 3 of these objects. So we create an array that store 3 objects, that can store 3 objects. One thing you need to remember in array in Java, the first object is placed in location 0, and the second in 1, and the third in 2. So when we say 3, we will have location 0, location 1, location 2 to do. And then how can we add objects to this array now? We have an array, we created the location of memory, can store 3 cars, Now how we can place those cars in the right slot. Okay, here is how you do it. So this first line, which cars 0, means we're telling that array store the first car in the location 0, and we create that car using the constructor car, and we pass to it the model and the color. So Toyota Red is now stored in location 0. You can think of it like a parking slots. This is in the parking slot 0, that car. And then car 1, the second car, stored in slot 2, and it is Honda car. And the third car stored in slot 2, and it's a Ford green car. So with this way, we created the object. We can do this creation through maybe asking user to enter this data through using the scanners, or having a loop that allows to go one and one and add the data, or reading this data from a file and creating the objects one by one, storing them in the right location. There's so many different ways we can create these objects. But I want you here to understand where it is stored and the syntax for doing it one by one. Okay, so the above assumes that the car class has a constructor that receives two parameters, the model and the color, and we will ensure that our car class has this constructor with this specific attribute. Mr. ChatGPT, anything you would like to add here?
Great explanation. It's also worth noting that arrays in Java are fixed in size, so it's important to decide the number of elements beforehand. For dynamic sizing, you might consider using an array list. But for now, arrays work perfectly for this demonstration. Great job.
Excellent, and this is very important. The array has these restrictions or weaknesses, if you can call it. Once you create it, you cannot expand it. If you want to now store 4 cars, we need to create another array, copy those 3 cars to that one, and then delete the first array. But if you use array list, which we will do later, it will be dynamic. You can add data to it and remove data to it, and it will expand and shrink based on the need. Thank you for that point. Now, how we can now display the data for each object. Now, there are different ways to do it, and they all require you to have a loop, because you now have an array of cars, and there are more than one car stored in that array. So you need to go through them one by one and to display every one. And the way to do it, you need an array. The different type of array we can use. You can use the for traditional one, which you can say for int I equal 0 until I less than the length of the array, and increase I by 1. That's what we can do. But there is a better one, especially for arrays, for a list of objects. And this one is this. This syntax is the better one to use rather than the other one, but we still can use the other one. Let me explain this one. So here what we're saying, we need a loop. We need to go through the array, which cars, one by one. Every time we find one, we treat it as the car. So this is the car. Now all this has to be from the type class car. So we're using class car, and we are going through the array, and every one, the first at 0, we'll find it will be car. Then we will go and say car, display the information. It will go and find who is in location 0, what is the model, what is the color, and it will display the information based on this method which we have in the class car. And then it will go to the next one, which at location 1. That location 1 now will become our car. It will come say, get me the one in location 1, it will display for us and continue like that. So this you can use it if you have any number of cars stored in that array, and it will continue going through that. Mr. ChatGPT, do you want to explain anything more on this?
That was a great explanation. Using the enhanced for loop is indeed a more concise and readable way to iterate through arrays of objects. It's efficient and easier to follow, especially for beginners. The key point is that this loop automatically handles iteration and simplifies the code. Great job covering that.
Thank you very much. This is the enhanced for loop, and as you can see, it's straightforward and maybe the most efficient, as Mr. ChatGPT said. Now let's look at the entire code for that one, which is similar thing. This is our main class. This is the class car. You can see the class car now has a constructor called car, and that receive a model and receive a color, and it sets those model and color, and then this one method just display the information. If we come in the main class, we're creating the array here. So there are 3 elements being created, and the array name is cars of type car, and then we set car 0 to be Toyota red, and car 1 is Honda blue, and car 3 is Ford green. See, I'm saying car 3, but the number here is 2 because the location is 2 because we start from index 0. Keep that in mind. And now this is the for loop that goes through the loop and display for each car. Call the method display info, which will come here. Whatever that car is, it will come here, display its model, and display its color. Okay, so and anything else you want to add to this full code, Mr. ChatGPT?
That's a great summary. Just to emphasize, using the enhanced for loop makes it easier to iterate through each element in the array without needing to manage the index. This example demonstrates the power of object-oriented programming with arrays. Great job.
Thank you. Here is my summary, or the summary of our today. In object-oriented programming, classes define the structure. So class is the structure of your object or the blueprint of that object. Objects encapsulate state and behavior, so it put them all together in one place, and then you can move them together and work with them together. And arrays enable efficient data management. As you can see, with a simple enhanced for loop, we can go through all the elements and can do some processing on every one of it. Mastering these fundamental skills ensures scalable, modular, and maintainable software design. So I encourage you to practice and practice and practice, because the practice is the best way to gain those skills and build your competencies. Mr. ChatGPT, do you want to add anything to this?
That's a great summary. Practicing these concepts will definitely help solidify your understanding and improve your coding skills. Great job today.
Thank you. I think we are done with this, and let me stop sharing